as Deku floats there. One thought crosses his mind, as he's flying deep into space. How did things end up this way? How am I gonna survive? This isn't how things were supposed to go. This isn't how I was supposed to die. Now, hello everybody, this is Show here. And by that fucking anonymous intro, you guys know that some shit has happened. Well, another thing. I went to work early and was able to get off early. Now, let's continue. Whenever we last left off, Deku and everyone else, they were flying back to the planet. And things have been a bit different. They would arrive. As soon as they do, however, they get something on their sensors. Find that there is another ship, which would immediately get the Marines' attention. I almost said Doom Guy for some reason. They would immediately try contacting the ship and getting into comms with them. As soon as they try and open a line, this is whenever a hole would be breached in their hull. As a Marine would have immediately ran over and start by throwing himself in the way, basically trying to hold on and not try and pull together the metal. As they are losing a lot of oxygen and things are flying out of this hole. With that happening, the Marine would basically just be standing there, basically helping stop depressurization, as they would have successfully gotten down to the lower atmosphere of the planets. Now then, they were already entering the atmosphere, but that hull breach definitely made them need to land. Now, the ship would disappear into deep space, and they would be confused. That was another chapter, correct? Yes, brother. Although that seems to be the thing we're not sure about. If this truly is another chapter, then why did they attack? Well, I'm not quite sure. This may be a result of something else. Touche. Well then. As the Marines are just lowered back down to the planet, seeing that the town, as they call it, they live in is on fire, which would make everyone immediately rush out, looking and trying to find survivors. The librarian, he would just say that this seems to be quite a tragedy. But the gene seed, it is hidden here, correct? Yes, brother. Well, if that chapter was here, as the Marine would have paused for a second, walking over and heading into the church, as he would have headed to the lower levels, finding the lab. They were supposed to do something different, but this interruption from training has put a damper on things. They would just hear the Marine shout as he comes back up, saying that it's gone. The seeds, they are gone. As he would hold up something in his hand. They're not sure exactly what this is. The other Marines, however, they exactly know what this is, and they're just looking down, as if they have just lost somebody in battle. He would just say that they have the only seeds left in their own bodies. Now, if they are trying to destroy us and eliminate us, then this must be the gods of chaos. They are after us. They don't want us training the next generation. As this one would have immediately ran over to the ship, saying that they need to head back to Earth early then, protect what remains, as they would have done so. Now, with that, they would have made their way back to Earth, sectioning off and actually, spacing or ejecting the part of the ship with a hull breach and taking it off. Basically, the ship, they can perform different maintenance and routines in different parts of it. However, it's specially made to where if something is wrong in one area, you can eject that area and be able to force the two pieces that were not connected to each other to make up the space. Now, I'm not sure if that's how it works in Warhammer, but I feel like that would be very useful. That's actually more useful than I even thought. Anyways, now, they would have immediately started going back to Earth as all the scouts are talking. Deku just saying that this seems to be different. What do you guys think happened? Not sure, but it's bad. We've never seen them like this, not even during training. As Deku would look to the man, he can't see his helmet. It is too dark, but he can see the glow in those eyes. He knows exactly what this is. He's seen it in his friend's eyes before. It's war. It truly is war. As Deku would just look down at this pendant he has in his hand, finally deciding to slip it over his neck and wear it. The Marine somewhat would, look at this, as Deku heard a piece of metal somewhat moving or shift. The Marine looking down at Deku, saying that he needs to go join the other children. Continue doing, what you do. But you must leave us to ourselves. We will figure out how to solve this dilemma. Which Deku would leave. He would actually go to see the librarian. He is supposed to have a lesson today. Most of the kids are. Deku wants to get his out of the way, since he wants to somewhat focus on other things. He's seen exactly what the armor and weapons are made out of, and he does somewhat like to see them and see how they work. It's just how his mind is. If he can find a way to improve tech, he would like to. It's very interesting. But if he ever needs to, he at least does need to know how to work on his armor, in case of a situation he's not prepared for. Deku would have his lesson. As whenever he does go into his own head, he sees what has happened recently. He sees the instance where he jumps to the cliff and or the piece that had the snake in it, and actually biting and attacking to his arm, as he would have been able to throw his arm outwards and get the snake off of him. However, he would have fallen, causing Kirishima to actually grab his hand, and or try to save him, which in turn would have gotten her killed. Seeing that he could have been a liability, but his good thinking brought him out of the situation alive, which Deku would hear getting somewhat praised for, since he did not let himself repeat a mistake. That is highly valuable to know, but he would continue on. The librarian seeing more and more into Deku's head. The time they spent training and exactly how they've done things. Interesting and interesting. As he would also come to Deku, Momo, and Kirishima. Them taking a picture together. He somewhat does not like that. But one little material possession, like a photo, does not take up much room in an arsenal. As long as you remember your battle brothers and your battle sisters, that is fine. But holding on to too many is problematic. So, the librarian would somewhat let this slide, since he understands exactly how good this child can be. If he just gets more and more motivated, then he knows this child could be a good Marine. Every one of them can be. The drives and motivations he's seen prove that. He knows it. Now, Deku would leave, seeing and learning more about the Marine chapters and the lore, and about the Codex, which he's been learning a lot. Returning to go work out with everyone, and actually train and somewhat rest. Everyone's doing their own thing. You can clearly tell by one area of the ship being more lively than the rest. As Deku, he is doing push-ups. He was actually not supposed to, but he put on his pain suit. Actually being able to talk with one of the Marines for a second and or the librarian, getting him to turn up the voltage a bit. Since he said that this was a bit too low, or it was feeling a bit low. The librarian would have done so. Deku actually being able to somewhat feel this pain more. He basically went from being shocked with around 100 volts to, I want to say, 215. Now, Deku, he would be doing push-ups, as people can clearly see strain and or pain on his face. As he would be continuing to work out and actually talk and hang out with Momo and Kirishima. With that happening, he would also meet this boy that he saw on the mountain. He would not get his name, however, but he would have also met Uraka, who she would have seen him because Deku, he was just bringing his legs over a pole and actually doing, well, he was doing basic sit-ups, bringing his head upwards towards his knees, as he's hanging at 90 degrees. She would have been able to see him and get his attention. Him somewhat almost falling over before she taps onto his face with her hand, using her quirk, which would have surprised him quite a bit. Her saying that she kinda is sorry. But she had to do that, as Deku would have seen her. Her hair is somewhat white, but it also does look a bit more blonde, along with he can see the original color, brown. So, she may be a bit more behind than he thought, since most of the kids there, their hairs are almost fully turned. Hers seems a bit further than the others, but he understands this a bit. Whenever he first started getting the chemical injections that started augmenting his system, he was a bit slow, but his training and determination was able to somewhat bring him back. Now, Kirishima, she would have walked back in, throwing Deku a metal container, Deku being able to grab it even though he's still floating, asking her if she can put him down, her doing so. Deku landing on his feet as he would unscrew the cap and take a drink. He would say that this is, well, what's your name? Uraka. Well, this is Kirishima. Now, before they can continue, this is whenever quite a lot of kids are actually saying to look outside, as everyone would walk over to the window, seeing Earth. The place is beautiful. Wow, so that's home? Yeah, but do we even, as Deku would have just opened his mouth, are we even welcomed here? Everyone's staring to look at him. He's sweaty and his hair is messy, but he still does wear that pendant around his neck. Yeah, he doesn't wear it as a sign of, well, pride. He wears it for honor. He earned this. Everyone just repeating that question. Can they be welcomed here? Which would make quite a bit of people a bit sad and confused. They're not sure why, but as the Marines would have told them all to strap in for re-entry. Them doing so. This is whenever they would get back to the mountain and or the Himalayas, where the Emperor lies, sitting on his throne. Now, they would arrive to find that the place has already been somewhat ransacked and broken into. He says broken into because the keys seem to work, but the lock was busted, as in they had to break down the door. Them doing so, as they would have found quite a bit of corrupted Marines. The soldiers would have begun tearing through and actually taking them down. The Blood Angels having to earn their name and live up to it. Now, this, after about 8 to 10 hours of fighting, would be where the Blood Angels would find the gene bank. The gene of each, chapter, it seems to be here, but it also doesn't. Most of these seem to be, scraped dry. As in, something took them. It took the best parts and the best traits of each chapter. And what it did leave, it did not reseal. As in, these genes have basically just been rotting away in open air. The Marines being angry and even more pissed off, warn them turning and smashing their armor to a wall. As he would just say that it's all gone. Everything they've worked for. Everything they have tried. This is not how it ends. To which the librarian would just say that they are forgetting. The universe, it is vast. Somewhere out there, one of our fortresses, one of our strongholds, they have to have something left. They need to. Otherwise, as the librarian would somewhat hesitate, saying that they will need to create the gene seed once more. As the Marines just stared directly at him, hearing this heresy, they cannot divert from their customs. As the librarian would just say that he understands. But if we were to, as someone gets into the science with it, saying that create them out of the children's genes, it would be more adept and made for them, using what they know about them. Along with, as soon as he was going to say Primarch, this is where they would have also stopped him, saying that he's lucky they didn't already take his head off. Them all basically walking outwards and back onto the ship, as they would be screaming and yelling for everyone to get back on. Which Deku somewhat hesitates. He usually follows an order, but his toes and his feet, they haven't felt grass like this in forever. Soft, wet, and the soil, it doesn't, it doesn't seem to be weird. It seems to feel natural. It feels real. As the Marine would have shouted once more, the kids who were staying outside the ship along with Deku would have ran back on. Them taking off once again into deep space, deeper this time. Heading for a old base. They would have arrived, finding that this place may be full of Tyranids. One place they did not expect to be full of them. After 10,000 years, you'd think these things would have been dead by now. Even more proof that the Chaos, or Gods of Chaos, live on now. This is where Deku, he would be instructed by the Marines. And every other child there is listening. The Marines and the sisters are not messing around. They understand exactly what will happen if this goes wrong. This is where Deku, he would hear that they are going to be giving weapons and armor, specialized gear to protect them. But they are not to use them in any means, unless an absolute emergency. As the Marines would have laid out every single piece of armor they could find on the ship. Chest pieces, the pieces they use for training, the initiate pieces, and every single weapon they can find. Whatever is big enough and or if you're strong enough, you're carrying it and using it. Which quite a lot of people would be taking some more weapons. Deku actually does take on a rifle, along with a bolter pistol, or at least what looks like one. This is a bit heavy and, well, he'll just keep it to his waist, or at least up on his shoulder, as he would try throwing it over. It feels like it's 20 pounds, and the Marines only handle these things with one hand. But they're even bigger, so that's gotta be twice the weight. Well, can't blame them. Now, the Marines would have given a briefing on exactly what this place is. This place, it is different. It is where they will need to find the gene seed once more. There should be one left. They are not rebuilding, and if they are not rebuilding from scratch, they will use what they have. They will not let the legacy of the other chapters die, even if they are the last remaining. So, we are going to be fighting the Tyranids, while each one of you is in charge of trying to find a gene seed. Stick to the shadows and listen to your brother and your sister beside you, as they would have all put on their helmets. They are lightweight, and they seem to be a bit weird, but they'll work. Along with the armor pieces they have actually do connect to each other. So they're actually made to be a pressurized suit, which is so interesting. Deku finally breaking the silence, as he would throw up his hand saying that he has a question. Exactly what is a Tyranid, and why are our bodies covered this way? The Marine shouting that a Tyranid is something the Emperor is uphold to. A gene stealer, if you will. It is impure, and it is beyond recognition. We must purge them in holy fire, clean them from this world. In the eyes of the Emperor, we must purge them. Now, as the Marine would smack a button and the door would open, they would feel this gust of wind as the two ships would interlock, connecting them to the fortress. Them walking out, as they can hear sounds in the distance. Everyone's scared and confused. The Marines immediately getting to work on linking up each one of their helmets, saying that they're all on a mass comm system. Split up into teams, and put yourself into smaller systems. However, keep yourself out of the larger one unless you have information needed. We will be the only ones communicating on the mass one. Now, anything you find that's urgent for us to know and or understand, please use it. Understand, everyone? Yes, sir! As they would all turn into smaller teams. Deku going with this weird kid, and Kirishima and Momo. Uraka actually offering to go with Deku's team. Taking the offer of Deku, he would do so, as another kid actually does walk up. The guy says that they need an extra pair of hands, and if they need to, they can use his quirk to help them get up to some place they need to. Deku saying that they'll be fine, This chick here has a gravity quirk. She can help us do that anyway. But thanks for the offer, man. Oh, well, alright, man. See you around. As this guy would turn, walking away. Deku finding him to be a bit weird looking, but he should expect that. It is a quirk after all. A quirk. Huh. I won't need one of those when I'm done. As they would walk away, staying as high as they can and as high and in the shadows as possible. Anytime they need to, they would be on the roof, being able to move around and float like they're in 0G, while they can hear the gunfire and the firefights that the Marines are having. Saying that they are going to be doing this for the Emperor. They will not let his dream die. They will not let chaos prevail. Now, Deku, him and everyone else, they would be moving throughout the entire ship, getting quite a bit far away. Along with Deku and his team, actually finding something close by. They wandered off out of the range the Marines told them to stay in. But it should work out perfectly. They are in the, well, I guess you can call it a docking bay, since they're able to see outwards into space. The view looks weird, but it should be expected. Now, Deku would see something that he is in shock by. He sees that there is a lab, and he would run in, as he would immediately get on comms saying that he found something. He found a gene seed, he thinks. He found many, actually. They all seem to be in good condition, I believe. As Deku would have gone over the proper procedure about how they look, how they feel, and if they are cold or not in their canisters. Which the Marines would have told him that they are on their way. Deku and his team being excited, as they would have Momo start looking through the logs, along with Kirishima. These two finding exactly what has been said. There is a normal man standing there, as he tries to force the gene seed on himself. They would have watched as he died, and then he got feasted upon by Tyranids. But that's not where the entry ends. He came back. He came back as something worse. As they would hear a loud scream in the airlock, and or the cargo bay. The thing is basically standing there, as Deku would basically just turn and run out, trying to get its attention. As that happens, Deku, him and everyone else, or him and Kirishima, they would be trying to lead this thing away. Since Deku's the fastest and she seems to be the strongest with her quirk, or the most durable. Now, her armor will help her, but that's where this kind of ends. This thing is trying to fight and actually mess with these two both. As Deku would have ran over and smashed a button, sealing off the lab. The lab is locked down, and the doors are closed. As these two would have begun one simple thing. They would try and fight this ginormous creature. It's as big as a space marine, or at least they think it is. Its size is hard to compare since it's kinda just all over the place. As the Marines would try and ask for a status update. Deku having to bring his hand upwards to his ear saying that they have a bit of a problem. They were able to lock down the lab, but there's something in here with us. The Marines hearing this thing scream. As they can see clearly what this thing is. Whatever it is disgusting. The Marines would have told them that they cannot get there in time. but find the airlock, something to release it. Whenever you do so, hold on for dear life. Make sure the seeds are preserved. Now, Deku, he would just say yes, sir. As he would tell Momo to work on something, please. As this is where she would start messing around on the computer, looking for something and actually telling him that there's an access panel that should lead to a computer somewhere. Deku just needs to look for a red wire. Follow it down. Deku looking around, as he would dodge another hit. It somewhat breaking and actually hitting his arm guard. As he would run over and start to look through this. He begins to look at it, as he would immediately be grabbed by this thing. It would try to pick Deku up. Deku immediately smashing his leg downwards and hitting the airlock as it begins to open. As that happens, Deku, he would start getting sucked out into space. As Kirishima, she is hanging on as much as possible. Her hands are hardened and her claws, they are digging into this metal, as she's basically being pulled backwards more and more. Now, Deku and this thing would go airborne. Deku being able to hold onto the ledge that he's on. This thing basically just grabbing and actually slashing into Deku's upper legs and into his lower body. Deku basically screaming out in pain as loud as possible. As Kirishima, she would try and make her way to help Deku. This thing actually being able to slash its tail across her face and break through her helmet. As Deku can hear her gasping for air. This is whenever he would have done one thing, letting go. The Tyranid being able to get sent flying, as Deku would have been able to grab into and actually hold onto Kirishima's arm. She is losing oxygen very quickly. Momo, she would turn off the security override, and somewhat try forcing the doors open. As Uraka and this other guy, they are pulling at them as hard as possible. Momo creating a rope from her hand and throwing it outwards. It's basically a lasso. Kirishima, she would finally grab onto this thing with her hand, as it would finally harden, her basically wrapping around as much as possible, holding on to Deku with her other arm. She's gasping for air and Deku can see that her face is in bad condition. She is bleeding a lot and she's also losing oxygen. She's going to suffocate to death. Deku saying that he's sorry everyone, as he would grab Kirishima by the head, pulling off her helmet, grabbing and putting his on hers. She'd be screaming at Midoriya that he's crazy. As that happens, you can just see Deku somewhat trying to smile while holding his breath, as a loud sound can be heard. Momo, she's pressed up against the door, and so is this capsule that the gene seeds are inside of, as it gets thrown out and actually flown into space. Deku immediately turning to see it. It is right in front of his eyes. He can't let the chapter die. As she would have watched him throw this helmet on and immediately just wrap his, or at least stuff something into his mouth, or around it, as he would be jumping off into space, her watching him do this, screaming his name. Deku being able to reach outward and grab onto the gene seed. He has it in his hand. He did it. As he turns around. He's too far. Shit. I need to... No, that might not even work. As he slams into something. He would slam into it and turn around, seeing a metal cabinet. This is... shit. Not gonna work. As Deku is actually beginning to feel these effects. The metal that the thing cut through, it cut through a good enough portion. Not enough to reveal the face, but enough to damage the oxygen supply. Deku actually just feeling that he's about to black out. Shit. The seed. Deku immediately just curling up into a ball and grabbing his necklace, stuffing this container upwards into it as he would hold on to his necklace with as much force as possible. Deku can feel his veins beginning to deoxygenate as he is looking upwards, floating and actually seeing visions. Someone named Korn is praising Deku's bravery in his honor, along with telling him that his pride will get him killed. Deku, he's not sure even what to say. He can just hear this voice. Along with, he can hear Nurgles saying that he's quite surprised. He can feel despair and something from him. Your death is going to rebirth the Space Marines. But that's not just it. You're an act for survival. I can feel that, child. Do you not understand? You're dying. Deku just finally blacking out, as his last word is no, as he is floating off into space. Now then, that is going to be where I leave this part off, guys. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and have an amazing day. I will catch you guys in the next parts.